What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you spending your time here with me today, and we are going to go over this. The Nomad Defense 9 Gen 4 lower is the first one of its kind to come out. It is a Gen 4 specific lower. It is serialized, so it does mean you do have to fill out your 4473. It's treated just like a firearm, but it's got some really nice stuff as compared to the factory Glock frame that we will get into. It is specifically, like I said, a Gen 4 lower. However, most Gen 3 parts do cross over, except for the slide. So if you don't know, you cannot put a Gen 4 slide on a Gen 3 lower, but you can do the inverse. You can put a Gen 3 slide on a Gen 4 frame, but you'll get a little bit of a gap up front where that guide rod and spring are, but there are adapters out there. There's several of them. I don't personally care if there's a little bit of a gap. I just run it that way, it doesn't matter. So a couple months back, I did get a hold of Nomad Defense. They are located out in Lake Havasu, Arizona, which is only a couple of hours from me. And I was really interested to see what they had to offer because I'd heard some pretty good things up front about their design and engineering that they had going on over there as far as ergonomics that were going into this frame. I did get a hold of them and they did send this out to me for free. But as you guys know, that is not going to change how I do reviews. If there's something wrong with it, I will let you guys know. They were just nice enough to provide this for the channel so I could provide information to you guys to make an informed decision if this is something that would work for your next build. I took this Nomad frame out and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. I bought a brand new Gen 4 front serration slide from Brownells, which was complete, because I wanted to make sure that this thing was gonna run. And then once I knew it was gonna run, I tested it with my Boogeyman slide. I tested it with a Brownells Gen 3 slide with that arc compensator for a roll and special type build. I tested it with a couple different triggers and everything ran flawless. I did not have a single hiccup out of this gun. A lot of people out there will ask why would I want to have a different frame other than factory when I can just buy a factory Gen 4 Glock like this one. My standard 19 here, it's a compensated version, which if you don't have a compensated Glock, they're actually pretty fun to shoot. The C should stand for cheating because it makes it a lot easier to shoot, obviously, which is part of the reason people put compensators on their guns. But there's a lot of reasons out there. Now, Glock is like the AK of pistols. And like AKs, they're known for just being battle proven, tested. I want to say like the vast majority of law enforcement departments around the world are carrying Glock. Glock did just miss that military contract. But when we want to be honest with ourselves, the ergonomics of a Glock, not the best. The trigger of a Glock, pretty horrific unless you do some work to it. And don't get me wrong, you can shoot these things just fine with what's in there. But I mean, come on, there's definitely a lot to be desired out of the frame and the actual trigger mechanism itself. In comes groups like Polymer 80 and now Nomad Defense. And there's kind of two schools of thought about this. One says go and just buy a Glock and then do all kinds of stuff to it. And then the other group says build it yourself. I'm a builder, I like building things. I always have since I was a kid. I grew up working in construction. That's just kind of how I am. But the Nomad 9 is completely different. It's a fully finished frame and all you do is put the pieces together. It's very easy, guys. And then you get to pick everything you want. You get to pick your own parts and build your gun up front the way you want it. And there's a lot to be said for that, because if you buy a Glock, like my 19C here, then decide to do all that stuff, the grip work, because the grip on there is just not the best. And then you're gonna do a trigger, and then you're gonna do something else and something else and something else. You will have more money in this gun at the end of the day than you will in buying one like the Nomad Defense and just building it from the base how you want it. Like, share, subscribe, guys. It really does help the channel and it provides me the opportunity to do more honest reviews for you. We're gonna get into this thing up close. I'll show you all the different parts that I put on there, and the big question is, how does it feel? I like it. I did find one thing or two that I would change that weren't my preferences on it. And then there is some new information that I just got from Nomad Defense about some additional parts they're coming out with that I'll get into after we get up close to this thing. So let's check it out. Okay guys, here we are up close with this Nomad Defense frame. Now I know there's a lot of stuff on the table right here, guys, but that's because all of these parts and a lot more were actually tested on this frame. to give it the best benefit of the doubt starting stock and then going into everything custom. So a lot of the high points on here are things that Glock people have been asking or modifying their frame to do for a very long time. So we'll start with one of my favorite integrations that they brought in, and that's these forward ledges right here. So as you can see, they pop out just a little bit on both the, well, depending on which handed you are, right or wrong, left and the right side, wrong, right side, whatever. So you've got a really nice index point, but you've also got a little bit of a ledge to actually provide you a little bit more force on that frame to control that recoil impulse. Now, texture-wise, they have done a great job. Now, this is a very, it looks more aggressive than it is, so it's not overly aggressive, but it's just aggressive enough to really allow you to get a grip on this thing and hold on to it when you're firing, especially those plus P rounds that provide a little bit more of a recoil impulse. Now, they did carry it all the way around the back strap, and they did carry it nicely kind of into the front of the trigger well just a little bit. If you've got those meatier hands, it does give you a little something to index on as well. They did change it slightly right here. So that gives more of kind of like just a line striation, but they're actually very comfortable. And I found that they do feel quite nice in the hand. And they've carried that down into that little bit of an integrated lip that they've provided right there. You do get 3 different back straps when you get this. All of them have the texture on it. This is the small. So there's a small, a medium, and a large. And this one is meant to kind of show the profile of almost like a 1911. The bigger one, the medium, is like a SIG, and then the largest one is kind of that factory Glock style. Now, a ton of guys get their frames modified to do a backstrap reduction, stipple work, index marks. Nomad Defense has taken care of most of that stuff, and it really does, for me, puts this thing at a better angle. Now, I did notice when shooting this that I was almost angling down a little bit just because it does have that more 1911-esque angle, and I've been used to shooting Glocks now for the past several months because I went away from carrying my 1911 for duty use. So they've also gone with that 2-pin design. Now, Glock has gone back to that 2-pin design as well. There is a little bit of discussion out there on whether that 3-pin design causes a little bit of another stress fracture point up there. Nomad Defense did a ton of testing, and they decided that this design with the factory locking block was the strongest design they could make and has the least opportunity for failure, just like a factory Glock frame. Now, they have built this thing very well, and they have thought this out very well. You've got a little bit of an opened up trigger well right here, which is also a problem for many people with the Glock. It's much, much smaller, so my big old fingers sometimes barely fit in those trigger wells, and if I'm wearing gloves, it's definitely tough. They have indexed very nicely the ambidextrous safety line right there, although I was able to, like I discussed, when I was playing with this, if I pushed really, really hard on this side right here, the non-action side of the mag well, I could actually push the safety mechanism. I could ride it over like that just a little bit. Probably never anything that's going to happen. I was really forcing it to do it, but just so you guys know, that is a possibility. Nomad Defense knows about it. I discussed it with them at SHOT Show. So now the grip texture, like I said, absolutely great, integrated everywhere around there. One of the other things they did was they've changed this angle right here to give you the highest access you can and extended out that beaver tail so you can control that recoil. Now, if you don't know, the higher you can get your hand on a pistol to match in line with that bore axis, the more control you have over it. So that allows you to reduce that felt recoil and put faster shots on target. It wasn't a ton, but they did as much as they could to get high up in this tang area right here to allow you to shoot faster, better, and place better rounds on target. The light up here. So this is one of the things where I would have liked to have seen a change. They stayed with that factory Glock style rail up there. I would have loved to have seen the Picatinny, and I think a lot of other people would have. That may be something they look into in the future, but it is sufficient for almost any kind of weapon light out there, and it is a nice, clean looking rail. I just wish I had more options because some lights are smaller, some lights are bigger. You can mount them further forward, further back. Depending on the size of your hand, you may need a light that goes a little bit further out. Some people have shorter hands, they may need it a little bit further back. So I tested this with factory mags. Like I said, I tested this with a factory mag and a Thrash Tactical +6 extension on it. I tested this with a Gen 5 17 mags, had no issues there. The Magpul P mags, tested it also with the 19 version and the 17 as well. The ETS mags, everything here functioned absolutely flawless in this gun. So like I said, I wanted to give this the benefit of the doubt. So what I started with was actually the factory Gen 4 front serration slide. And this came complete. Picked this up from Brownells. And I will leave links for all this stuff down in the description, guys, if you're on a Freedom channel, because I wanted to make sure this thing was going to run with factory parts. So once I was out there and I knew this was going to run in a factory Gen 4 setup, I started throwing in the other slides like this Thrash Tactical slide with my Boogeyman barrel in there, the flatline. Ran like a champ. My Boogeyman Yorona Elite slide. Now this has an IKC barrel and it has the Steel City Arsenal lightened solid guide rod and spring assembly here. And I wanted to run that just to check tolerances to see if there was any drag in this frame. Worked out perfectly as well. And then this, which I built for my budget Brownells Roland Special build. You can check that out. I'll leave a card up here. Running that CMC barrel, that arc compensator, and a factory guide rod and spring. Now this thing shot amazing on this frame. The recoil impulse was so controllable. And then I also started to swap in barrels. I used that ATI barrel, functioned flawlessly. I used that Steel City barrel, that functioned flawlessly as well. So in all, guys, I think this is great. We'll get back up into the chair, we'll close this out. But if you're looking at something like this to do a build and you don't mind the fact that it's not a non-serialized Polymer 80, I definitely think that the Nomad Defense has a lot to offer and is a little bit better feeling than the Polymer 80 frame, my personal opinion, guys. So we'll finish this up, guys. So I really do like the grip angle of this. And when I first took it out to the range, I punched out, started taking a couple shots, and I noticed right away that it had that much more ergonomically correct profile for my wrists and my shooting style. I just really think it has a lot of great improvements over the factory Glock frame. Definitely that little ledge that I showed you guys up close right there for your finger to get onto. And then just that grip profile overall, I just think is much better than the Glock factory frame. And this one can be had without having to do modifications to it. A positive for this thing is obviously that it uses all factory parts. Polymer 80s, you use different kinds of rails that you put in the back and then different locking block rail in the front. And a lot of people have had some issues that they've had to smooth those out or sand those out. Whereas the Nomad is built around the factory locking block. So in the end, is this thing worth it? I really think it is for different kinds of people. One, the person who wants to build a full custom gun to their specific style and need. Two, people that don't want to have to buy a factory Glock and then send it out for a ton of work. And people who want that more ergonomic feel out of a pistol as compared to a standard Glock frame. And there's a ton of people in between as well who may just want to have some fun, try something different, or get into something that maybe they just want to use here and there at the range. Now there was a bit of a difference that I noticed between this and building like a Polymer 80. When I was putting this together, especially the locking block, I noticed that it had that factory kind of smooth, tight feel when I was putting the parts in there. Now that can't be said for some other kind of 80% builds or other things out there. And I thought that was very interesting up front because that kind of shows me the quality of the parts in there when everything is very firm and very smooth when you're putting this together. Now, there are a couple things that I would change. I would have liked to have seen the Picatinny rail over that standard factory Glock rail. It just gives you more options and more versatility. Other thing is, like I showed up close, just that little bit of movement in that magazine release where I was able to kind of force it over. And granted, that's probably not something that's gonna happen with most people, but I just happened to wanna check tolerances on things. And then when I threw in the aftermarket, like the Tyrant CNC mag release, or have another extended mag release, all of them were fine. None of them had that issue. It only happened with the factory mag release. So in the end, if you're building this, you're probably gonna have a different mag release in it anyways. But that is something that did come up in my testing. I did just get an email not too long ago from Nomad, and they are coming out with a magwell for this thing, which I'm super excited about because you know I'm a huge fan of magwells. We got a magwell playlist I'll put up here for you guys. I think they can only help you, especially since I got those bigger hands. Magwells do a lot for me, and I think that's gonna be an awesome addition to this frame. I think it's a great buy. I would definitely spend my money on it because I love building things and having kind of things that fit me more ergonomically or that are customized to my liking. And like, share, subscribe, guys. I really appreciate your time and spending it here with me. I really want to bring you guys the best reviews I can out there. And I do my reviews based on kind of experiences that I've had in the past working in the military and law enforcement career field. And I try to put these things through duty use. I don't try to beat them up like, you know, Aaron Cowan or Just Dynamics or something. That guy must have a huge budget because he just destroys things. But if you like what you see here, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, get out there in the range, shoot some ammo, go get some training, check out some of their content on the channel, guys, and I will see you on the next one.